Have you ever felt a presence in a room that made your skin tighten, a quiet tension that whispered danger, even when everything seemed normal? That feeling is your mind recognizing something deeper, something hidden behind smiles, behind polite words, behind seemingly harmless actions. Some people walk through life with intentions you would never imagine, and the moment they realize that you see through them, everything changes. Their calm, their control, their invisible power begins to crack, and you, whether you know it or not, have entered a new space of awareness that they fear more than anything. This is not paranoia. This is clarity. This is awakening. Understanding what happens when someone evil knows that you know is not about learning how to hate or retaliate. It is about reclaiming your strength, your peace, and your power. The knowledge you gain here is a shield that protects your mind, your heart, and your very sense of self. When someone realizes that their hidden motives are exposed, they react in ways that are instinctual, calculated, and revealing. Their behaviors, often subtle at first, are like cracks in a facade, small hints of the truth that most people never see. But you are about to see them clearly. You are about to step into a space of perception so precise that their attempts to manipulate, intimidate, or confuse you lose all effect. Imagine living a life where no one can quietly pull strings behind your back, where your intuition is not just a fleeting sense, but a weapon of clarity that guides every decision, every boundary, every interaction. That power is available to you the moment you choose awareness over ignorance. By paying attention to the ways evil reacts when exposed, you give yourself an advantage that most people will never have. You gain insight into the mechanisms of fear, control, and desperation. You learn to see denial, anger, manipulation, charm, and deceit for what they truly are, signs of weakness disguised as strength. And as you recognize these behaviors, you no longer react out of fear or confusion. Instead, you respond with precision, calmness, and unshakable confidence. The reward is more than safety, it is freedom. The freedom to act without hesitation, to trust your instincts without doubt, to live fully without the shadow of hidden threats looming over you. Every moment you hesitate to recognize these patterns is a moment where control can slip from your hands. But the moment you understand, everything changes. Your boundaries become impenetrable. Your decisions become intentional. Your presence becomes undeniable. And as we move through each of the 7 behaviors, you'll begin to see patterns that have been invisible until now. You will learn to anticipate, to protect, and to rise above manipulation in ways that feel almost effortless. The truth you are about to uncover is not just knowledge, it is liberation. And by the time you reach the end of this journey, you will not only understand the tactics of the unseen and the manipulative, but you will carry the confidence to stand firm, to reclaim your power, and to never again allow hidden darkness to influence the path of your life. Awareness is your first step toward unstoppable strength. Let it ignite the courage within you to see clearly, to act decisively, and to claim the life you deserve. Every detail, every pattern, every revelation that follows is a tool for empowerment. Stay present, stay alert, and know this: the moment you recognize the truth, you hold the key to freedom, control, and unshakable confidence. The first thing you will notice when someone evil realizes that you see through them is denial. They will act as if nothing has changed, as if your awareness is insignificant, as if your perception is flawed. Their calm may seem unshakable. Their words may be light, almost careless, but beneath the surface, fear is building. Denial is their first line of defense, because admitting truth is terrifying. It exposes weakness, vulnerability, and the loss of control. They want you to doubt yourself, to question your instincts, to believe that perhaps you are overreacting, but you are not. Your mind has recognized patterns that most people ignore, instincts that most people suppress, and truths that most people fear to see. Their denial is a mask, a protective shield against the exposure that threatens everything they have built. Seeing through that denial is your first victory. Understanding denial is not just about recognizing it, it is about standing firm against it. When someone laughs off your observations, when they act as if your concerns are trivial, it is not a reflection of your error. It is a reflection of their panic, their inability to maintain control when confronted with clarity. They are testing you, probing for cracks in your confidence, looking for hesitation or uncertainty. The moment you remain calm, The moment you do not waver, you strip them of that power. Their denial loses its weight, its influence, its ability to intimidate. Awareness becomes your anchor, your shield, your unwavering force. The psychology behind denial is simple yet profound. People who rely on manipulation and deceit have built their lives around control. The revelation that you have seen, their intentions challenges the foundation of everything they rely on. Denial is a natural reflex, a cognitive strategy to maintain stability, but it is also a signal. It is their unconscious admission that they fear exposure, that their grip is weakening, that the truth is now visible. Recognizing this is liberating. It transforms fear into understanding, confusion into clarity, and vulnerability into strength. You must remember that denial is not the end. It is the beginning of awareness. Every laugh, every casual comment, every feigned innocence is a test. They are searching for cracks in your resolve, hoping that you will doubt yourself and step back into uncertainty. But the moment you recognize this behavior for what it is, you gain a profound advantage. You see the world with sharper eyes, you feel your intuition strengthen, and you understand the rhythm of manipulation before it can affect you. Your power lies in observation, in measured responses, and in the refusal to react emotionally to their attempts at destabilization. By standing firm in the face of denial, you reclaim control over your perception. You learn to trust your instincts without hesitation. You create a space where manipulation cannot thrive, where intimidation cannot take root, and where clarity becomes the ultimate weapon. The truth you hold becomes a shield, the awareness you cultivate becomes a sword, and your confidence becomes unshakable. Their denial, their subtle tests, their attempts to distort reality, these are no longer threats. They are confirmations of your insight, markers of your strength, and signals that you are stepping fully into your power. Every time you encounter denial, remember that you are witnessing fear in its rawest form. You are seeing the moment their control begins to falter, the moment their mask starts to crack, and the moment your awareness asserts dominance. By holding your ground, by trusting yourself, and by refusing to be swayed, you turn every attempt at manipulation into a revelation of your own power. Awareness is your weapon, clarity is your ally, and your unshakable presence is the ultimate response to anyone who thought they could hide from truth. When denial fails, anger surfaces. It is a reaction that is both instinctual and revealing. The moment someone evil realizes that their carefully constructed world is exposed, fear transforms into rage. You will feel it in the tension behind their words, in the sharpness of their tone, in the subtle aggression that underlies what once seemed calm. Anger is their mask, a desperate attempt to intimidate, to regain control, to silence the very awareness that threatens them. It is not about you personally. It is about their fear of loss, their terror that their manipulation is unraveling. Recognizing this allows you to step outside the emotional storm, to observe with clarity rather than react with confusion. Anger is powerful because it is contagious. Most people instinctively respond either by shrinking, defending, or lashing back. But when you remain composed, when you see the rage as a symptom of vulnerability rather than a weapon aimed at you, everything changes. You gain an unspoken control over the situation. Their aggression becomes predictable. It reveals patterns of fear, exposes weak points, and opens a path to action that is deliberate rather than reactive. Psychologists have shown that emotional detachment in the face of provocation disarms manipulative behavior. By refusing to feed their anger with your own reaction, you hold the upper hand without ever raising a hand or a voice. Anger is also a guide. It signals where their control is slipping, where their influence is weakening, and where their tactics are failing. Each flare, each micro-expression, each subtle hint of irritation is a window into their strategy, a marker of where their fear is most potent. The key is not to be consumed by it, but to map it, understand it, and use it as a compass. Your awareness turns their attack into intelligence. Their rage, instead of threatening your peace, illuminates the path to your empowerment. Every moment you stay calm while they lose control strengthens your position, solidifies your confidence, and sharpens your intuition. When someone tries to provoke you through anger, they are testing your limits, seeking any crack in your composure to exploit. But composure is a muscle. The more you practice observing without reacting, the stronger it becomes. Their fury loses its potency against you because you are no longer operating in the realm they control. You are anchored in your clarity, grounded in your self-trust, and unwavering in your presence. Their attempts to destabilize you are revealed for what they are: signs of weakness, markers of desperation, and confirmations that you have touched the truth they fear most. Every encounter with their anger is an opportunity to assert your dominance, not through aggression, but through mastery of self. It is a test of inner strength, a demonstration of resilience, and a declaration that your awareness cannot be shaken. As you witness their fury, you begin to see patterns that were invisible before. You understand the mechanisms of fear-driven behavior, the rhythm of manipulation, and the triggers that they attempt to exploit. By standing firm, by refusing to react, and by observing with precision, you transform every attempt at intimidation into a lesson in power. Your calm becomes contagious, your confidence unassailable, and your awareness the ultimate weapon. Their anger no longer threatens you. It illuminates the boundaries they cannot cross and the limits of their control. Each flare of rage confirms your insight, strengthens your resolve, and proves that the moment you trust yourself, the chaos of others loses its power to dominate. You are no longer a target. You are a presence that commands clarity, a mind that refuses to bend, and a spirit that cannot be shaken. Their anger is not the storm. It is the signal that your strength has begun to shine. Once anger fails to regain control, manipulation shifts to undermining. This is where the subtle, insidious behaviors emerge. Evil people, when exposed, will attempt to attack your credibility, to destabilize your confidence, and to cast doubt on your perception. They do this because control is their lifeline, and when it slips, they react with strategies designed to isolate, confuse, and weaken. Lies are crafted carefully. Insinuations are dropped deliberately, and small calculated actions are designed to make you question your judgment. But you are not powerless. Awareness transforms these attacks from threats into insight. The moment you recognize the intent behind their words, the moment you see the manipulation for what it is, you reclaim the authority they sought to steal. Undermining is frightening because it often feels invisible at first. A word here, a suggestion there, a whispered doubt in the mind of someone you trust. These actions are designed to destabilize your reality quietly, so that by the time you notice, the effect is already embedded. The skill is to remain grounded, to observe patterns rather than isolated incidents, and to trust your perception over the noise of distraction. Your clarity becomes a weapon. Every subtle attack becomes a confirmation of your insight. Every attempt to destabilize you exposes their fear, their panic, and their awareness of your power. Their desperation is the evidence of your strength. Psychologically, this tactic works because manipulation thrives in confusion. Evil people rely on the chaos they create in your mind to regain dominance. When you respond emotionally, when you doubt yourself, or when you react defensively, they achieve their goal. But when you observe without surrendering your calm, when you document facts and maintain perspective, their influence dissolves. You become untouchable not because they have stopped trying, but because you refuse to allow their tactics to dictate your mental state. Awareness is not passive, it is an active reclamation of control. This is where boundaries become your most powerful tool. By setting clear, unshakable limits, you communicate without confrontation that manipulation will no longer succeed. Your energy is yours to protect, your perception yours to trust, and your truth cannot be rewritten by lies. Every attempt to erode your credibility becomes a marker, a roadmap showing exactly where their fear is strongest and where your presence is most effective. They cannot manipulate what you refuse to hand over. Your calm, your clarity, and your unwavering self-trust are the antidotes to their insidious tactics. Understanding undermining also strengthens your resilience. Every attempt to destabilize you teaches you precision in observation, patience in response, and certainty in judgment. You learn to detect the faintest signals of manipulation, to recognize the patterns before they escalate, and to transform fear into strategy. What once felt like intimidation becomes information. What once felt like a threat becomes an opportunity to assert your authority, to reinforce your boundaries, and to claim your space with confidence. Your power lies in perception, in trust, and in measured action. Every attempt to undermine you confirms that you are now operating from a level of awareness they cannot penetrate. By observing, By standing firm and by refusing to internalize their distortions, you strip manipulation of its potency. Their efforts to destabilize become markers of your strength, signals that clarity is your shield, and proof that your insight cannot be shaken. The more they try, the stronger you become, and the more their strategies reveal the fear that lies beneath their calculated words. Every act of undermining is a confirmation that you are awake, aware, and unassailable. When undermining fails to regain control, the manipulator often turns to charm. Suddenly, the hostility vanishes, replaced by smiles, compliments, and gestures of false goodwill. They may apologize, flatter, or act unusually agreeable, but this is not genuine. It is strategy. Evil people understand the power of emotional confusion. They know that intermittent kindness can make you question your perceptions, doubt your instincts, and even forgive behaviors that were once unacceptable. Charm is a tool designed to lure you back into their orbit, to blur the lines between threat and safety, to make you wonder if perhaps you misunderstood everything. Awareness is your defense. Recognizing charm as manipulation prevents it from becoming a trap. Charm works because it exploits our natural inclination to trust and connect. Psychologically, humans are wired to respond to positive reinforcement, to smiles, and to gestures that suggest safety. Manipulators weaponize this instinct. They want to reset the balance, to make you feel complicit, to make you feel that the conflict never existed, or that your awareness was an overreaction. This is why self-trust is crucial. Your intuition is the compass that guides you through these waters. When you recognize charm for what it is and attempt to regain control, you maintain your clarity. You refuse to be swayed by superficial kindness because you understand that intent defines action, not appearance. Understanding charm as manipulation allows you to reclaim emotional power. Every compliment, every feigned apology, every calculated smile becomes a signal, a window into strategy, rather than an invitation to lower your guard. The more you observe without attachment, the more you see patterns that reveal their desperation. Their charm is not an act of connection, it is an act of control. By maintaining your emotional independence, you render their tactics ineffective. You do not reject kindness in general, but you see it through the lens of intent. You distinguish between truth and manipulation, between genuine connection and calculated influence. This awareness strengthens resilience and builds confidence. The manipulator relies on your emotional reaction to regain control. The moment you refuse to react, when you see their attempts clearly without internalizing them, you are no longer vulnerable. Your boundaries become unbreakable. Your judgment becomes precise and your presence becomes undeniable. Charm, which once could sway decisions and disrupt focus, now becomes transparent, a reflection of their fear and weakness, rather than a threat to your power. Every smile, every act of flattery, every calculated gesture is an opportunity to affirm your awareness, assert your boundaries, and reinforce your control over your own mind. Your emotional clarity transforms charm into a tool for empowerment. Each attempt at manipulation is revealed as a signal, a marker of where your awareness has shifted the balance of power. You begin to understand that fear drives these tactics just as much as rage or denial did. Charm is not an act of strength, it is an act of desperation, a way to regain what they have already lost: your certainty, your insight, and your influence over your own decisions. By seeing charm clearly, you cultivate discernment and self-mastery. You are no longer reactive, you are strategic. You no longer allow appearances to dictate your response. You allow truth to guide your actions. Every attempt to lure you into confusion becomes an affirmation of your independence, a confirmation that your awareness cannot be bought or bent. Your power lies not in confrontation, but in unwavering perception. Their charm, no matter how seductive, only confirms that your clarity has become their greatest challenge and your unshakable presence the ultimate force against manipulation. When charm fails, subtle aggression takes over. Passive aggression is the weapon of choice for those who cannot regain control through denial, anger, or flattery. It appears quietly, almost invisibly, in the pauses between words, in the hesitation behind a smile, in the tiny actions designed to unsettle you without drawing obvious attention. A door left slightly open, a delayed response, a backhanded comment. All of these are calculated attempts to destabilize your sense of certainty and control. The manipulator relies on subtlety because it is harder to confront, harder to prove, and easier to dismiss as coincidence. But awareness transforms every nuance into a signal, every slight into a warning, and every hesitation into insight. Passive aggression is effective because it erodes confidence silently. It is designed to make you question yourself, to wonder if your perception is off, to create tension and discomfort that you cannot easily place. It is a psychological tool that thrives on ambiguity. The more you internalize doubt, the more it gains power. But the moment you recognize the pattern, the moment you understand the intent behind the subtle sabotage, you reclaim authority. You refuse to internalize what is meant to destabilize you. Every slight becomes information, every hesitation a confirmation, and every backhanded comment a reflection of the fear driving their behavior. Understanding passive aggression requires clarity and observation. It is never random. Every action, every omission, every subtle jab is rooted in a desire to regain influence and to test boundaries. Psychologically, it is a tactic to exert control without appearing overtly threatening. The moment you view it through this lens, you gain perspective and power. You no longer react out of confusion or frustration. Instead, you observe, document, and respond strategically. Awareness disarms the manipulation, and your calm becomes a shield no subtle tactic can penetrate. Passive aggression also tests resilience. The manipulator watches closely, waiting to see if you will respond emotionally, if you will doubt yourself, if you will relinquish ground. But when you maintain composure, when you refuse to take the bait, you demonstrate unshakable strength. Your awareness becomes the measure against which their tactics are tested, and they fail. Each attempt to destabilize you, each calculated slight, confirms that you are no longer vulnerable to fear, intimidation, or manipulation. Your perception is sharp, your judgment unwavering, and your control over your mental state unbreakable. The power in facing passive aggression lies in detachment. You do not need to react, justify, or explain. You simply observe, catalog, and continue to operate from clarity and self-trust. Every subtle attempt at disruption becomes a confirmation of your insight, a signal that your presence and awareness are too strong to be manipulated. Their tactics, once designed to destabilize, now serve to highlight your strength. By recognizing passive aggression for what it is, you transform it from a threat into a tool for growth. You learn patience, focus, and precision. You become attuned to the faintest signals of manipulation before they escalate. Every slight, every hesitation, every subtle attack becomes a reminder of your power to remain composed, to trust yourself, and to operate from a space of clarity that no manipulation can penetrate. Your awareness is unshakable, your boundaries indestructible, and your strength becomes a force that turns every calculated effort against you into proof of your own unstoppable presence. When subtle attacks fail, isolation becomes their strategy. Evil people understand that control is easier when you stand alone. They seek to sever your connections, to weaken your support system, and to create distance between you and those who reinforce your strength. This may appear as quiet manipulation of relationships, subtle exaggeration of conflicts, or the spreading of doubt and mistrust among your allies. Every effort is designed to make you question loyalty, to make you feel vulnerable, and to make you believe that the truth you hold is yours alone to defend. Awareness of this tactic is liberating because it allows you to act preemptively, to strengthen bonds, and to fortify your circle against manipulation. Isolation works because it attacks your perception of safety and trust. Humans are wired to seek connection and validation. When those connections are threatened, doubt and fear arise naturally. The manipulator relies on this instinct, knowing that emotional vulnerability can be exploited. But your awareness is your shield. Recognizing attempts to isolate you transforms fear into strategy. You learn to communicate with clarity, to reinforce relationships with honesty, and to observe patterns without internalizing deception. What once might have felt like uncertainty becomes an opportunity to assert your strength, to fortify your position, and to reclaim influence over your environment. Understanding isolation requires insight into human behavior and group dynamics. Manipulators exploit relationships because control over others creates leverage. By spreading doubt or selectively withholding information, they attempt to weaken your influence, hoping that distance will make you more susceptible to manipulation. But knowledge is power. When you see these tactics, for what they are. You strip them of their impact, your presence, your truth, and your integrity become visible and undeniable. Isolation is no longer a threat. It is a signal, a marker of your influence and the lengths to which others will go to disrupt it. Your response to attempts at isolation defines your power. Emotional stability, clear communication, and strategic transparency allow you to maintain control over your environment. You do not need to react with fear or anger. You simply observe, strengthen your alliances, and operate from a position of clarity. The manipulator's efforts lose potency because your awareness renders their strategies ineffective. Every attempt to separate you from support only confirms your insight, illuminates their fear, and reveals the boundaries they cannot cross. Isolation is also a test of resilience. It challenges your ability to trust your instincts, maintain confidence, and act decisively even when external support is under pressure. By facing this tactic consciously, you learn to operate independently without losing connection to truth, to act decisively without succumbing to doubt, and to maintain your presence without allowing others' fear-driven manipulation to influence your perception. Each attempt to divide becomes an opportunity to reaffirm your awareness, strengthen your resolve, and assert control over your environment. By recognizing and neutralizing isolation, you reclaim influence and reinforce your autonomy. You understand that fear drives these tactics, that separation is a tool of control, and that your clarity, integrity, and strength are immune to manipulation. Every subtle effort to distance you is a confirmation of your power, a reflection of the threat your awareness poses, and a reminder that your perception, your connections, and your presence are untouchable. Awareness becomes your armor, relationships become your fortress, and your influence becomes unshakable. When isolation fails to bend your resolve, manipulation often shifts into gaslighting. This is the psychological weapon that aims to distort your perception, to make you question your memory, your judgment, and even your reality. The manipulator denies facts, rewrites events, and insists that you are overreacting or imagining the truth. Their goal is to destabilize your confidence, to make you doubt what you know to be real, and to weaken the unshakable clarity you have cultivated. Awareness is the antidote. The moment you recognize gaslighting for what it is, the moment you anchor yourself in truth, you reclaim control over your perception, and their power evaporates. Gaslighting is effective because it preys on self-doubt. Humans naturally question themselves when faced with conflicting information, especially when delivered repeatedly and subtly. The manipulator exploits this tendency, hoping that repeated exposure will erode certainty and obedience will replace awareness, but your clarity, once sharpened, is immune. Every attempt to twist your reality becomes a signal, a marker of their desperation and weakness. Awareness transforms confusion into insight. What they intend as destabilization becomes illumination of their strategy, a window into fear disguised as control. Understanding gaslighting requires mental discipline. Every denial, every distortion, every insistence that you are wrong is a test of your perception, of your trust in yourself, and of your capacity to maintain composure under pressure. By observing without succumbing to doubt, you turn the manipulation inward, using it as a tool to sharpen your instincts and reinforce your internal compass. Each challenge to your reality strengthens your resolve, increases your confidence, and fortifies your ability to recognize deceit instantly. Their tactics no longer manipulate, they educate, revealing the very limits of their influence and the depth of your resilience. The power against gaslighting lies in evidence, observation, and detachment. By documenting facts, maintaining perspective, and trusting your intuition, you strip the manipulator of their ability to distort reality. Their words, no matter how convincing, cannot reach you because your awareness has become a fortress. You respond from a place of clarity rather than reaction, from insight rather than emotion. Every attempt to confuse you becomes proof of your understanding and of the fragility of their control. Their influence diminishes not because they stop trying, but because you refuse to surrender your perception to their fear-driven tactics. Gaslighting also reveals fear at its core. Those who rely on twisting reality are desperate to maintain control. and desperation is always a sign of weakness. By recognizing this, you move from victim to observer, from uncertainty to mastery. Their attempts to distort truth cannot succeed against a mind grounded in clarity, anchored in fact, and unwavering in self-trust. Every effort to make you doubt yourself only highlights your discernment and your ability to maintain authority over your own reality. By facing gaslighting with awareness, you reclaim your mental space and reinforce your autonomy. You learn to navigate manipulation without hesitation, to trust your instincts without doubt, and to maintain clarity under pressure. Their distortions no longer threaten your power, they reveal it. Every denial, every distortion, every insistence that you are wrong becomes a confirmation of your insight, a demonstration of your strength, and a reminder that truth, once recognized, cannot be bent. Your perception is unshakable, your mind is invulnerable, and your clarity becomes the ultimate weapon against manipulation. When gaslighting fails to bend your reality, the manipulator turns to blame. They will shift responsibility, accuse you, or redirect attention to your perceived shortcomings. This is a calculated attempt to avoid accountability, to destabilize your confidence, and to make you question not just your perception, but your very actions. They seek to project guilt and responsibility onto you because acknowledging their failure threatens their identity, their control, and their carefully constructed narrative. Awareness of this tactic is transformative. The moment you recognize blame shifting for what it truly is, you reclaim ownership of your decisions, your integrity, and your emotional stability. Blame is powerful because it triggers an instinctive need to justify ourselves. Most people immediately defend, apologize, or internalize criticism without recognizing the manipulation behind it. Evil individuals rely on this response, knowing that guilt can cloud judgment and weaken resistance. But your awareness is immunity. When you see blame as a strategy rather than truth, you separate emotion from fact. Their accusations no longer penetrate, they become signals, revealing fear, weakness, and desperation. You are no longer reacting to the blame. You are observing the patterns, understanding the intent, and holding your ground with unshakable clarity. Psychologically, blame shifting is rooted in self-preservation and control. Those who manipulate cannot tolerate exposure because it threatens their identity and dominance. Accusing others diverts attention, disrupts focus, and seeks to destabilize confidence. Recognizing this allows you to respond with precision rather than emotion. You no longer defend against attacks that are not grounded in reality. Instead, you assert boundaries calmly, clarify facts, and maintain your presence. Every attempt to redirect guilt becomes evidence of their vulnerability and your strength. Blame shifting also tests resilience. It challenges your capacity to remain anchored in truth, to trust your judgment, and to refuse manipulation even when the accusations feel personal. Each attempt to transfer responsibility is an opportunity to reinforce your autonomy and assert your power. By refusing to internalize their projections, you reclaim the energy that manipulation seeks to drain. You transform every act of accusation into a demonstration of insight, composure, and self-mastery. Your response to blame defines your authority. When you observe accusations without succumbing to guilt or defensiveness, you establish a presence that cannot be undermined. Every attempt to assign fault becomes a confirmation that you are aware, grounded, and operating from clarity. Their efforts, designed to destabilize, instead highlight your discernment, reveal their fear, and illuminate the unshakable strength of your awareness. You are no longer subject to the illusions of their control. You are anchored in your own truth, untouchable by projection and fortified by self-trust. Blame shifting, once recognized, becomes an indicator of your power. Every accusation reveals the manipulator's desperation, the limits of their influence, and the depth of your clarity. You learn to stand firm, to respond strategically, and to refuse emotional compromise. Awareness transforms accusation into insight, projection into evidence, and manipulation into an opportunity to assert dominance over your own life. Your strength lies not in reaction, but in recognition. Your authority is not granted. It is inherent, unshakable, and unyielding. Every act of blame becomes proof that your awareness has become their greatest obstacle, and your confidence their ultimate defeat. When blame fails to regain control, threats emerge. These are deliberate attempts to intimidate, coerce, or manipulate through fear. They may be subtle or overt, implied or explicit, but their purpose is always the same: to force compliance and silence awareness. Threats are the language of desperation. When someone realizes that exposure has stripped them of influence, they escalate, hoping that pressure will override your clarity. Recognizing this is essential. Awareness allows you to see threats not as weapons, but as signals of weakness. The more they try to impose fear, the more transparent their vulnerability becomes. Threats are effective because fear is a primal motivator. Most people instinctively react, hesitate, or seek to avoid conflict when faced with danger. Evil individuals exploit this instinct, believing that intimidation can suppress insight and force submission. But your awareness transforms fear into strategy. Every implied consequence, every veiled warning, every attempt to manipulate through tension is revealed as a tool of their own insecurity. You no longer respond from instinct. You respond from clarity. You anchor yourself in truth, control your emotions, and observe their tactics as evidence of their desperation rather than threats to your power. Understanding threats requires mental discipline and self-assurance. They are not indicators of your weakness. They are indicators of theirs. When someone resorts to coercion, it exposes the limits of their control and the fragility of their strategy. By holding your ground, refusing to react emotionally, and maintaining perspective, you neutralize their influence. Threats, once recognized for what they are, lose all potency. Awareness becomes a fortress, and composure becomes an unshakable shield against manipulation. Their efforts to intimidate serve only to confirm your clarity and the strength of your boundaries. Threats also test courage. They push you to confront fear, to maintain focus, and to assert authority in the face of pressure. Every attempt at intimidation is an opportunity to reinforce your autonomy, to affirm your self-trust, and to assert the limits of what can and cannot influence you. By responding strategically rather than reactively, you transform potential danger into empowerment. The more they escalate, the more visible their panic, and the more evident your unassailable awareness becomes. Each threat becomes a confirmation of your strength, a marker of their weakness, and a lesson in the mastery of perception. Your power lies in recognition and restraint. The manipulator relies on fear to bend your will, but awareness disarms it. By observing without surrendering, by documenting without reacting, and by maintaining calm under pressure, you reclaim authority over your mental and emotional state. Threats, no matter how severe or subtle, cannot pierce a mind grounded in clarity, fortified by self-trust and unwavering in presence. Every attempt to intimidate becomes a revelation of their desperation and a reflection of your power. Awareness transforms coercion into insight, pressure into strategy, and manipulation into opportunity. Their threats are no longer a danger. They are a mirror reflecting their fragility and your strength. You stand unshakable, composed, and resolute. Your clarity is your armor, your courage your sword, and your presence the ultimate barrier against anyone who seeks to bend you through fear. Every act of intimidation confirms that you are awake, aware, and unstoppable. When threats no longer work, deception becomes their weapon of choice. Lies are crafted meticulously, half-truths are interwoven with facts, and information is distorted to create confusion. Evil people resort to deception because awareness threatens them, and when control slips, they seek to manipulate perception, distort reality, and regain dominance through illusion. Recognizing deception is a turning point. The moment you see through falsehoods, the moment you distinguish between truth and manipulation, you reclaim authority over your mind, your decisions, and your life. Awareness turns lies into tools for insight rather than instruments of confusion. Deception is effective because it exploits the natural trust humans place in information, context, and social cues. Most people instinctively believe what they are told, especially when it appears plausible or aligns with familiar patterns. Manipulators rely on this trust to plant doubt, to redirect focus, and to blur the line between reality and fiction. But your clarity acts as a filter. You learn to question inconsistencies, to detect patterns of distortion, and to separate fact from fabrication. Every lie becomes a signal, every half-truth a marker of desperation, and every attempt at manipulation a confirmation of your growing perception. Understanding deception requires vigilance and discernment. It is never random. Every misrepresentation, every omission, every carefully constructed narrative is intentional, designed to influence your decisions and weaken your confidence. By maintaining observation without emotional surrender, you turn deception into intelligence. Each distorted fact, each manipulated scenario becomes data, evidence of strategy rather than truth. Your awareness allows you to respond with precision, to act strategically, and to maintain control even when others attempt to distort reality. Deception also tests integrity. It challenges your ability to trust yourself, to rely on your discernment, and to act decisively even when external signals are intentionally muddied. Each lie is an opportunity to reinforce mental discipline, to sharpen intuition, and to assert authority over your own perception. By seeing through manipulation, you no longer respond reactively. You respond with confidence, grounded in the knowledge that your awareness cannot be bent by falsehood. Every attempt to deceive becomes a lesson in resilience and a measure of your strength. Your power against deception lies in observation, verification, and calm analysis. The manipulator's goal is to provoke confusion, but awareness neutralizes their influence. By questioning inconsistencies, by verifying facts, and by trusting your intuition, you remove the ability of lies to destabilize you. Every attempt at deception, no matter how sophisticated, reveals not your weakness but their desperation. The more elaborate the lie, the more evident the threat to their control, and the more your clarity shines through. Deception, once understood, becomes a tool for empowerment. Each falsehood exposes the manipulator's strategy, illuminates their fear, and strengthens your resolve. Lies can no longer control you. They reflect the insecurity of the liar and the depth of your own insight. Your perception becomes unshakable, your discernment precise, and your presence impossible to manipulate. Every act of deception confirms your power, reinforces your autonomy, and demonstrates that awareness is the ultimate weapon against anyone who attempts to bend reality to their will. When deception loses its grip, projection becomes the next weapon. This is when the manipulator accuses you of the very intentions, faults, or behaviors that they themselves possess. Every criticism, every accusation, every judgment aimed at you is a reflection of their own fear, guilt, and insecurity. Projection is a desperate attempt to deflect scrutiny, to shift focus, and to make you question your perception. Awareness transforms projection from a source of doubt into a mirror, revealing not your flaws but theirs. The moment you recognize it, you reclaim clarity, ownership, and unwavering confidence in yourself. Projection is effective because it preys on defensiveness. Most people instinctively react to accusations, defend themselves, or internalize criticism. Manipulators rely on this instinct, hoping that self-doubt will replace awareness. When you observe projection for what it is, a reflection of their own behavior rather than a reflection of you, disarm the tactic entirely. Every accusation becomes a signal of weakness, every judgment a confirmation of desperation, and every attempt to transfer guilt a testament to your growing perception. Your power lies in recognizing that truth is never theirs to rewrite, and that their projections cannot touch the certainty you have cultivated within yourself. Understanding projection requires mental strength and self-trust. Every misattributed intention, every false accusation, every mirror held up to you is intentional. It is designed to test your boundaries, shake your confidence, and provoke emotional reaction. Awareness allows you to step outside the trap, observe without surrendering, and respond from a position of authority. Instead of being dragged into their false narrative, you see clearly, act decisively, and maintain control over your mind, your emotions, and your reality. Projection, once recognized, ceases to be a threat and becomes a tool to reveal the fragility of those who attempt it. Projection also tests emotional resilience. It challenges your ability to maintain composure, to trust your judgment, and to hold steady when someone attempts to invert reality. Each projected accusation is an opportunity to assert boundaries, to reinforce your self-awareness, and to demonstrate unwavering presence. By refusing to internalize what is not yours, you transform manipulation into insight, vulnerability into strength, and confrontation into clarity. Every act of projection becomes proof of your insight and mastery over perception. Your defense against projection lies in self-awareness and detachment. The manipulator's goal is to confuse and destabilize, but your understanding neutralizes their influence. By observing patterns, analyzing intent, and anchoring yourself in truth, you remove the power of their accusations. Every attempt to project becomes a reflection of their own fear and failure, while your strength remains unshaken. The more they try, the more visible their insecurity, and the more undeniable your clarity becomes. Projection, once recognized, becomes a confirmation of your power. Each accusation reveals the depth of their desperation and the limits of their control. It highlights your insight, strengthens your confidence, and asserts the unassailable authority of your awareness. Their attempts to invert reality are no longer threats. They are indicators that your perception is precise, your presence is commanding, and your understanding is unbreakable. Every act of projection solidifies the truth that you are awake, aware, and unstoppable. When projection fails, escalation becomes their final tactic. This is where subtlety vanishes and their fear-driven desperation turns overt. They may intensify attacks, amplify criticism, or create crises designed to overwhelm your perception and provoke a reaction. Escalation is the last measure of someone who has lost control, a signal that their influence is slipping and their strategies are failing. Awareness transforms escalation from a source of panic into a mirror reflecting their vulnerability. The more they intensify, the clearer it becomes that your clarity, your boundaries, and your presence are unassailable. Escalation works because humans naturally respond to intensity. Sudden pressure, loud confrontation, or visible aggression triggers instinctive reactions, fight, flight, or submission. Manipulators exploit this, hoping to provoke fear, confusion, or compliance. But when you remain anchored in awareness, escalation loses its power. Every amplified attack becomes a demonstration of their desperation, every crisis a confirmation of your strength, and every attempt to overwhelm you a lesson in the limits of their control. Awareness allows you to move through intensity without surrendering composure, to see clearly without being clouded by emotion, and to act decisively without being rushed by fear. Understanding escalation requires observation and mental fortitude. The manipulator's goal is to dominate attention and provoke emotional response. By recognizing the strategy behind the intensity, you reclaim agency. You do not react impulsively, you respond with measured control. Every shout, every threat, every provocation is data. Each is an indicator of fear and a marker of power slipping away. By staying grounded, you turn their escalation into confirmation of your insight and mastery over your own mind. Escalation also tests your endurance. It challenges your ability to maintain calm under pressure, to preserve clarity when confronted with chaos, and to trust your judgment even when someone tries to shake it with force. Each attempt to overwhelm you becomes an opportunity to affirm self-trust, strengthen your resilience, and assert boundaries without compromise. Awareness transforms pressure into empowerment, aggression into insight, and desperation into a reflection of your strength. The more intense their tactics, the more evident your unshakable presence becomes. Your defense against escalation lies in detachment and clarity. The manipulator seeks to hijack your emotions and provoke impulsive reactions. By observing without yielding, analyzing without judgment, and remaining anchored in truth, you remove the potency of their strategy. Each attempt at escalation highlights your calm, underscores your control, and exposes the fragility of their methods. Their desperation amplifies, and your awareness shines brighter, proving that intensity cannot breach grounded perception. Escalation, once recognized, becomes a testament to your power. Every overt attack, every intensified effort, every attempt to provoke confirms that your perception, boundaries, and mental strength are untouchable. It is proof that awareness cannot be forced or bent, that composure is indestructible, and that presence is a force beyond manipulation. Every act of escalation solidifies your authority, affirms your resilience, and demonstrates that you are no longer subject to fear, control, or deception. Your clarity is your fortress, your confidence is your sword, and your unshakable awareness is the ultimate victory over those who sought to control you. When escalation fails, silence becomes their weapon. This is the withdrawal, the absence, the calculated retreat designed to unsettle you. Evil people use silence to create uncertainty, to make you question your value, your influence, and your actions. The quiet is not peace, it is a strategy. It is a vacuum they hope will draw you into doubt, guilt, or overreaction. Awareness transforms silence from a source of insecurity into a signal of control. The longer they withdraw, the more it exposes their fear, their dependence on manipulation, and their inability to maintain dominance when confronted with clarity. Silence is powerful because it triggers instinctive responses. Humans are wired to seek connection and resolution. When someone withdraws, hesitation, anxiety, and speculation naturally arise. Manipulators exploit this, hoping that the vacuum will provoke a reaction, that you will reach out, explain, or apologize unnecessarily. But when you recognize silence for what it is, a tactic, not a reflection of your worth, you reclaim control. Each pause becomes a mirror, each absence a message, and each deliberate omission a confirmation that your awareness is threatening the manipulator's sense of authority. Understanding silence requires patience and composure. The manipulator's goal is to provoke emotional reaction by creating space for uncertainty. By remaining grounded, you neutralize their intent. You do not fill the void with unnecessary words, doubts, or actions. Instead, you observe, reflect, and maintain your presence without surrendering your power. Every moment of quiet becomes an opportunity to affirm your clarity, to strengthen your self-trust, and to recognize that the absence of manipulation does not equal the absence of control. It often signals the collapse of theirs. Silence also tests emotional resilience. It challenges your capacity to remain steady, to trust your instincts, and to act deliberately rather than reactively. Each calculated pause is an invitation to maintain composure and assert boundaries. Awareness transforms their withdrawal into insight. The quieter they become, the louder their fear speaks. Every intentional omission is a reflection of their desperation, a demonstration of the influence they cannot wield, and a measure of the clarity and power you have cultivated. Your strength against silence lies in self-assurance and reflection. The manipulator's withdrawal is designed to create tension, but awareness converts tension into empowerment. By observing without filling the space unnecessarily, by trusting yourself instead of seeking validation, and by remaining grounded in reality, you remove the threat. Every act of deliberate absence becomes a confirmation that your perception is independent, your control unshakable, and your presence unyielding. The more they retreat, the more their vulnerability is revealed, and the more your clarity stands undeniable. Silence, once understood, becomes a testament to your power. Each withdrawal, each pause, each moment of calculated emptiness confirms that you are no longer dependent on their validation, that your awareness cannot be manipulated, and that your presence is a force that cannot be destabilized. It demonstrates that strength is not measured by reaction, but by composure, self-trust, and the ability to remain unshakable regardless of external tactics. Every moment of silence becomes proof that your clarity is invincible, your confidence absolute, and your influence unassailable.